extremely excited to be here. It's been a really wonderful conference. I actually hope that the eternal recurrence of the same exists, because I would like to be here back over and over and over. I really enjoyed this conference, so thank you so much. Make it so special. And I also want to thank Yunus to actually put this panel together, and all the speakers. And I'm very happy to be speaking after Jeff, because my talk is actually about the eternal recurrence. And the title is From the Eternal Recurrence to the Multiverse, Towards a Post-Human Cosmo-Ontology. Yes. Yeah. Also, I took the freedom on the tradition of Das Zarathustra's talk to be a little more creative in my talk. So this is not the kind of talk I usually give, but this time I took my freedom to be a little more poetic and give you some visions, hopefully. Space-time. I had a dream. One day in 2010, I woke up with this phrase in my mind: you will be able to unravel time. I had never heard the word unravel before, so I looked it up in the dictionary to see if it had any meaning. It did. It meant to undo, to untangle, to solve. And still, what did that phrase mean? How could you unravel time? By only focusing on the how, I had no answer. So I changed my focus to the what. What is time? Time can be perceived as a human concept, a historical guideline, a cultural framework, and still, time cannot be discerned from space. According to Einstein's general relativity, the concept of time depends on the spatial referential frame of the observer. Time should be addressed more specifically as space-time. For instance, due to a principle of physics known as time dilation, astronauts in space are aging a bit more slowly than the people on Earth. In physics, space-time refers to a mathematical model that combines space and time into a single continuum. Time is added as a dimension of space. Before proceeding further, we should mention that space-time is merely a convenient framework. It does not describe what it really is, but what it is like. It is assumed that space-time is curved. Such a curvature would be caused by the presence of matter and would be responsible for gravity. So, what does this have to do with Nietzsche's eternal recurrence? From Das Zarathustra. The dwarf murmured contemptuously, all truth is crooked. Time itself is a circle. You spirit of gravity, I said angrily, do not make things so easy to yourself. Behold, I continued, this moment, from this gathered way, a long, eternal lane leads backward. Behind us lies an eternity. Must not whatever can happen, have happened, have been done, have passed by before? And if everything has been there before, what do you think, dwarf, of this moment? Must we not eternally return? I first engaged with Nietzsche Nietzsche's notion of the eternal recurrence when I was 16 years old. The idea that each and every moment of my life could return eternally as the same changed my life at the time, inspiring me to craft my existence as my most ambitious work of art, to which I could say yes, eternally. As many Nietzsche scholars, I interpreted the eternal return as a thought experiment. And I must admit that at first, I was surprised when I realized that Nietzsche might have conceived it as a cosmological doctrine as well. Here, I'm not entering the debate on whether he actually meant to present the eternal recurrence in one way or in both ways. But I would like to reflect on possible interpretations of it, and take it as an inspiration to develop posthuman cosmo-ontological hypotheses based on contemporary developments in the field of quantum physics. As a cosmological pattern, the eternal recurrence can be traced back to Eastern philosophies and spiritual traditions related to Buddhism as well as Hinduism. Within Western philosophy, we can see antecedents in Heraclitus, the Stoic philosopher Zeno, and in the Pythagorean tradition, all sources which Nietzsche was familiar with. Some other interpretations of the eternal recurrence can be found in different cosmogonic rituals around the world. For instance, Mircea Eliade, in the Myth of the Eternal Recurrence, 1949, underlines how ancient societies tended to envisage events not as constituting a linear, progressive history, but as creating repetition of primordial archetypes. In Eliade's words, so this is Eliade's talking, these rituals imitate a divine archetype, and their continual reactualization takes place in one and the same atemporal mythic instant. However, the construction rites show us something beyond this. Every construction is an absolute beginning, that is, tends to restore the initial instant, the plenitude of a present that contains no trace of history. So, how could a moment contain the present, the past, and the future at the same time? Again, Nietzsche from Das Wort Zarathustra. Eternally, the ring of being remains faithful to itself. In every now, being begins. Round every here rolls the sphere there. The center is everywhere. Bend is the path of eternity. The moment is the matrix of creation. Most patterns of existence will be repeated, ensuring continuity. Some will be slightly modified. Few might be radically revisited. Oral historical matriarchal lineages of time and her stories of bodies are also precious sources to be investigated. Julia Kristeva said, Wildenstein, 1979, argues that female subjectivity is divided between cyclical natural time, repetition, gestation, menstruation, and monumental time, eternity, myth of resurrection, the cult of maternity. She's actually pointing out to Nietzsche as a direct source for such a definition of temporal dimensions. These modalities are set off against the time of linear history, from where women have been the casualties, the outsiders of the socio-symbolic time contract. Doing some interesting philosophical seminars in jail, a friend of mine received this answer from a prisoner who had killed both his wife and her lover when he accidentally found them having a sexual intercourse. He said, "In that moment, I thought that killing them was what I was supposed to do. Everyone expected me to do so. If I did not, I would have not been able to look into the eyes of my family and friends. I did not feel like killing them, but that was the only way I knew to deal with the situation. And so I did." Repetitions of behavior. That was the only way he knew to deal with that situation. Patterns of existence. Such a perspective can be applied to many other notions and categories. Judy Butler, in Gender Trouble, defines gender as performative and recreative, as she explains. So this is Judy Butler. The action of gender requires a performance that is repeated. This repetition is at once a reenactment and re-experiencing of a set of meanings already socially established, and it is the mundane and ritualized form of their legitimation. So more than a noun, gender is a verb, to gender, gendering. And this is just an example to stress that gender, as well as infinite other micro and macro patterns, are reenacted through the gerunded condition of lived practice. By performing our existence, or more simply saying, by the ways we live, we are creating patterns of existence. Here, it can be of interest to mention Jung's archetypes as universal, archaic patterns and images of the collective unconscious. But how these sort of fluid archetypes would have formed? In order to address this question, I will now go back to our physics scenario, focusing on modalities of existence, in order to delve into the how, which is also the what, of our possible futures. Some years ago, when I was working on post-human ontology, and specifically on the subject of the multiverse, the eternal recurrence started to haunt my thoughts. I could not think of the multiverse without thinking of the eternal recurrence of the same. Again, from Das Zarathustra, the soul is as mortal as the body, but the knot of causes in which I am entangled recurs and will create me again. I myself belong to the causes of the eternal recurrence. I come again with this sun, with this earth, with this eagle, with this serpent, not to a new life or a better life or a similar life. I come back eternally to this same self-same life, in what is greatest and in what is smallest, to teach again the eternal recurrence of all things. First of all, let me clarify that by multiverse, I am referring to the scientific investigations of matter from the micro to the macro levels of materialization, which recently brought different fields from quantum physics to cosmology to astrophysics to the same hypothetical conclusion. This universe might be one of many. Here, I should also mention that the multiverse is not a theory, but a prediction of certain theories, as cosmology Max Tegmark stresses. For instance, the map of string theory, in order to function, requires a distinctive feature, which is extra dimensions of space. Consequently, advancing the hypothesis that this specific dimension is only one of the many occurring. So let's go back to our initial point. Was Nietzsche somehow tapping into this kind of memories of the future?